Yo, hi
We're
internet
live.
people. We're live. I don't know if anyone's here yet. I don't know enough about technology to understand whether anyone's
No,
connected.
this is pretty
Um,
sophisticated stuff.
oh, Omar's here. Hey, Omar.
Omar's there.
Good
Hey,
evening. Look at that. Good evening message. It's a good evening to you too. Um, so welcome to Convex Live, Convex Q&A session live, real time, whatever we're calling it, real
I
time
like
live with Convex.
I like your variation of like real time, real talk or
Real
something.
time, real talk. Yeah.
Like,
And the motivation basically was we wanted to have a forum to just answer questions very informally that people have. And I know last time I posted a roadmap update in Discord, a lot of folks had a lot of questions, a lot of feedback, and I answered a bunch. Well, we all answered a bunch of them, but I don't think I had time to answer them all. So just want to be here to say whatevs. Hi Kamal, hi Igor, um, and what we could do until questions show up. If we could talk about the new plan,
we
and maybe
could.
Jamie, you can do that.
I can do that. I also want to apologize to Theo because I understand he's streaming at the same time, and I apologize for pulling so much audience away from him. So
Oh, we're
yeah.
competing with Theo. That's a tough one.
Yeah, hey everyone. Yeah, we're happy to just talk about whatever. So if you've got anything you're curious about, just oh, thank you for saying you love Convex.
I'm just going to
That,
show the chat here. I'm going to show on the chat.
yeah,
Everyone, the chat's enabled, and so don't say anything obscene.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It. You guys have no idea how much it matters to us that people say they like Convex or Convex made them their work more fun or better or whatever. So thank you all for saying that stuff. Yeah, we just want to have like start to do something a little bit more. We're like for folks that aren't in our Discord community, we are super active in our Discord community, but like we realize there's a lot of stuff where like if we just every now and then just did one of these, it'd be a little easier to do iterative stuff with whoever wants to talk more about Convex and know what we're up to, ask questions, stuff like that. Yeah, the like news today is we just released the new Convex starter plan, and the new Convex starter plan is a plan that is like a scale to zero plan. We've been talking about making this plan, to be honest, for a while. And the goal here is that for folks that don't want to pay $25 a month and don't want to pay any seat fees, but want to use more Convex than you get in the free plan, there's no reason not to let people do that. So we just haven't had that plan yet. So we just launched it, and it's also fair to call out that Chef's existence made the urgency of creating this more significant because since when we launched Chef, we didn't know if anyone, to be frank, would use Chef or care about Chef, and it ends up that I think the last time we counted, over 200,000 Chef projects have been made in the last few weeks. A lot of people use Chef, and unfortunately, Convex Pro, where you have to pay $25 up front, and then you only get some tokens, it doesn't feel like a very good deal for most Chef users because they don't really use a lot of the other Convex features. So we think that not only is Convex Starter a great plan for anyone that wants to use it, but it's especially important, I think, for now that we have Chef users, that if they want to use more Chef than is included in the free plan, then now they can just upgrade to the Convex Starter plan and just have kind of a pay-as-you-go way to get more tokens as they need it. So we feel good about that.
Yeah, I
Um,
think I think a lot of this stuff, like I mean, pricing's just hard, and like we don't want to be like evil corporation with like pricing models that people don't like. So we just launched Chef with the $25 a month plan because that's all we had. Like that's we just had we built Chef in 10 days, and so we didn't have time to build a new plan. So we just launched it with the regular Convex Pro plan. I think this wasn't the right plan. So now we have this pay as you go thing, and hopefully y'all like it. And so what I'm imagining is that people who are using Convex to run their business are going to be using Convex Pro because they get all the features that they want with that, and they want to be paying a regular amount of money for like a regular service. And people who are like vibe coding on Chef, and sometimes they want to spike in usage, and they might not use it for a month. They're probably going to want to be on the starter plan, so they're not paying a monthly fee, and then they can just pay what they want when they need it.
yep, and we also have some folks who are like newer to programming, even if they're using the traditional platform, that maybe they live in the part of the world where like $25 USD is actually not a small amount of money, which we fully respect. And so I think for those developers as well, like it's great to have the option to not feel like, oh, geez, if I use my project a little bit more than is included in free, I can't work on it for the next month or whatever. So that feels like a pretty stupid cutoff, to be honest. So
Yeah.
we're very
Yeah.
glad to fix that. I do see we've got a couple of
Yeah, we can jump into a question right here from Kamal. And yeah, just like write any questions you want in here. I mean, obviously keep them like appropriate, but we'd love to just give you straight. The whole point of this stream is we give you like really honest, straight answers about stuff, right? So this is feedback. We need more powerful filtering in Convex. There's two things to say about this, right? In Convex, there's indexes and there's filtering. So indexes, like you define an index on a table, and then you can very efficiently go and query stuff. This field matches whatever, this field is greater than whatever. Indexes are like the really efficient way of querying data in Convex. And so I think our index syntax is too complicated, like that you have to do like dot with index and then the q and the arrow. I think it's too complicated, and we should just have like an easy to use syntax for indexes. So we're going to do that like soon, probably. The other one is filters. So filters are not efficient. So the way a filter works is you walk over the entire table. It's just like a where clause in the SQL database if you don't have an index, right? It walks over the whole table and applies a filter to every row and sees if it matches. So I'd love if more people were using indexes than filters. And then if you're doing a filter and like the filter operation is not efficient, not expressive enough for you, you can probably just filter in JavaScript. Like sometimes, like if I'm doing some code on a relatively small table, I'll just fetch a bunch of state from the database and then I'll just run a map on it in TypeScript. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. Also, I think I want to have better first-class support for joins. Like there's an article that Ian wrote on like helpers for joins. It's actually really good. It shows you how to do all the kind of SQL style joins in Convex, but it's not easy to discover. So if you're using Convex, you're a bit of a power user, you want to do more expressive queries, just search for like Convex joins helper or something, and you'll get a lot of information.
I think agree with all that. And there's another thing, which is like, many of you probably discovered Convex has a particular worldview that we think is going to be great if the more folks learn about it. And a piece of that worldview, though, is that in practice, most projects eventually discover there's two main methods about talking to databases, right? One is like you want to get in, get out, do something for a user, which is a more like transactional processing use case, which is most applications. And then occasionally you want to be able to just query whatever. Like, don't make me make an index ahead of time. Don't make me use heavyweight syntax. And for that second use case, which is kind of more analytics or whatever, like SQL is really good at that. Like that's the thing that SQL is really good at. And so one of the things we still do want to ship at some point is like better just built-in support for like what we would call like OLAP in Convex, where like we kind of give you something like DuckDB and we just automatically embed it. And that way, if you have a dashboard or something like that where you do want to just run any query anytime you want, we give you the ability to do that. Now you won't be able to like conduct transactions against that query, but a lot of times when you're doing those queries, that's not what you want to do. You just want to be able to like grab arbitrary subsets of records and not have to write a lot of code to do that and stuff like that. So we have some ideas in mind to make those kinds of needs met better. They're not met very well by Convex yet. Hopefully we'll get around to building that in the next, like, I don't know, 3 to 6 months. So we have a lot of things on the roadmap right now, but we're trying to get to all this stuff.
Yeah. And Kamal said we should make the docs better about this. I agree. We should make the docs better about this. We'll try to go fast through these ones because there's more questions showing up. Thank you. We love that Convex feels very ergonomic for LLM development. It's meant to be. It's designed that these building blocks fit together nicely. If you're trying to use TypeScript more, yeah. Do we have any suggestions? Like yeah, we love TanStack. We know Tanner personally, where like Convex works great with TanStack, and you can use Convex with TanStack Start if you'd like to. So suggestions beyond that, I don't know. React, yeah, I don't know. Jamie, any answers there?
I mean, definitely make sure you've got the latest version of the cursor rules. I think that with MCP and everything else, we're trying to figure out ways to make sure to keep all that stuff up to date, like all the latest hinting, so it doesn't get stale, because we do evolve that over time. And so when you're working with LLMs, like, we run evals every time a new model comes out, even when new versions of Claude 4 comes out, for example. And so figuring out ways to make sure that stuff stays up to date will help make your like building with AI better. When it comes to TanStack specific stuff, we're actually like Ian and I were talking the other day to Tanner about like TanStack starts release maybe that might be coming up soon. And so I think the closer we get to like a GA kind of release with TanStack start, that's when we're going to really put a lot of effort into making sure that Convex and TanStack work really well together. So hopefully we'll have better recommendations for you once we get kind of to that point with the TanStack project.
Yeah. Long game. I mean, this we could talk for hours about long game. We want this to be the back end for almost everything. Say almost everything. There's going to be some cases that you're not going to use Convex for, but for most kind of interactive applications, user-facing applications, we want you to be able to run almost everything on Convex. And what's the vision? What's the big bold vision, Jamie? Is that most back-end engineering should be commodified, and if the right primitives are there, you can just focus on building applications.
Yeah, I mean, there's this funny back and forth recently about like just use HTML. I don't know if people saw that, but online people are saying like just use HTML. And it reminds over time, there's to me, there's always this thrashing that happens when we try to make higher level abstractions where people try some bold stuff and it doesn't quite work. And then everybody goes, oh, we should just go back to doing it the old way. Right. And you go back and forth on that. And so a good example of that, I think, is really easy for us all to relate to now is like compilers, right? Like, I don't really think about how machine code works anymore. I just use a compiler. I pretty much trust it absolutely to just do the problem, solve the problem it says it solves. And because of that, it's kind of a true abstraction now. I don't need to understand anymore how compilers work. And so, we've had all these other things happen after compilers like cloud and stuff like that. And the Convex team believes that like backend engineering is not going to eventually we will have a higher level layer to it that completely solves the problem enough where we're not all doing the same DevOps stuff at every single company that doesn't have a lot to do with the specific product we're trying to make or like the human problem we're trying to solve. So Convex is definitely, our goal is really to figure out how to make that layer and just be one of the providers, because we know a lot of people are going to take this on, but is making a great new ergonomic way to solve kind of like back-end state management problems that lets you keep moving fast and stay focused on your problem and your kind of like human specific needs instead of gluing queues to caches and stuff like that.
Cool. Does Convex run? Thank you for the compliment, ambiguous, and we've chatted before. So thanks for being a fan. Does Convex run off GPUs? Could it be used to render files server side? Now, architecturally, Convex has 4 primitives, right? Has queries, mutations, and then actions, and then HTTP actions, which are the ones that you expose directly to the outside world via HTTP webhooks. And then there's 2 types of actions. There's node actions and what we call convex actions. So convex actions run in our own runtime. And most people, when you're writing an action, it runs in our own runtime. It runs on our own servers. It's done very efficiently and very fast. But it's not like it doesn't support the full subset of Node.js functionality. And so there are customers who need to do certain functionality that's just not available in the Convex runtime, and so they use node actions. So they put this use node directive at the top of their action, and we just run that on AWS Lambda. So it just runs as a Lambda basically, with a little bit of more smarts going around it. The short answer is no. It doesn't run on GPUs, but if you can run it on a Lambda, you can run it in an action technically. But if you want to do any kind of heavyweight GPU style stuff, we just recommend using some other service just for that part of your stack, and then have actions talk to that.
By the way, I just see that comment about analytic queries. Yep, hear you. That's like it's the number one issue that more established teams have who otherwise
this one
love
here.
Convex. Yeah, but who teams that otherwise love Convex. I got this one thing I got to do that's just like it's an internal dashboard, or it's like it's an aggregate job where I just add up a bunch of stuff once a day, and those things are too painful on Convex right now. So we're going to solve that soon.
Yeah. Right now, if you want to do that, some of y'all will know there are customers doing pretty sophisticated analytic stuff on Convex. What they do is they use our connector to connect to uh, Snowflake or Databricks or BigQuery or whatever, and they do the analytics queries there, and they stream the data out. How do you? Oh, we have plenty of databases storing a lot more than 20 million documents. So this is nothing. Yeah, so you're fine. Chef runs entirely on a single Convex project. It's not the biggest Convex project by far. But yeah, Jamie, this seems fine, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I think Chef has many tens of millions or maybe low hundreds of millions at this point of documents or something. So, and as you said, it's not the biggest Convex project. So, like, yeah, 20 million shouldn't be a problem, but like, I guess reach out to us on DM or something in Discord if maybe you think there's something specific about what you're doing that might be an issue, and we can talk it through.
Yep. I just want to give a caveat here, and this is just a gap, right? The referral bonuses don't work on the Starter Plus plan right now, um, just because we haven't built it yet. And so I just don't want it to seem like sneaky. The referral bonuses work on the free plan right now, and we want to make them transfer just fine to the Starter Plus to the Starter plan. It's just that as of today, referral bonuses don't apply to the Starter plan, but we'll fix that as soon as we get to it. Jamie, you want to cover this?
Yeah. Actually, to be frank, there's this old article that I wrote on Convex that a lot of people didn't like on Hacker News called "It's Not You, It's SQL," which kind of talks about our perspective, I guess, my perspective, but probably yours on like SQL, no SQL versus SQL and stuff like that. And Convex are big fans in ACID relational database systems. That is not something that we're attempting to dissuade people from thinking that way. We think it's actually a great solution to problems. It's really SQL. The query language is sort of the part that's changed. And so when you ask a question like how should you think about modeling data,
Same way.
most of your instincts about modeling data relationally in other databases do the same thing on Convex. So Convex has foreign keys via references, denormalized data, normalized data, depending on when you need performance. All the same stuff works. The way to think about indexing, Convex runs on relational databases under the covers, right? And so a lot of your instincts for modeling data should translate. The only things you're going to run into that are different are Convex has some nice stuff around unions and it supports nested documents. And so it has some niceties about the document doesn't just have to be a flat list of fields. The record is a document with depth and with union types and some nice things like that. But all the like table relational stuff it's the same kind of thinking. So yeah, I would say try what you normally would try and it will work most of the time.
Yeah. Better auth question. Are people having success with the better auth integration? Yeah, I personally like it, right? I mean, so I just want to own there are a lot of ways of doing auth in Convex, right? There's Convex auth, but then there's Clerk and there's Work OS, and then there's better auth, and you can roll your own. Better auth is the latest edition of auth to Convex, and the nice thing about better auth is the Convex component. So all your auth tables are hidden away inside a component in your data view. So you don't have all this list of tables like called auth sessions, auth users, whatever. And I personally use the better auth component when I'm hacking on stuff. I think it's alpha, but you can use it. And I think it's good. Yeah.
Yeah, Sean in our community started as an early Convex user, and Convex champion, and and then has contributed to the community, and now works for us basically a lot of the time, and is basically a Convex team member. And so, and Sean's the one that's been working on the Better Auth component, and I think James and I are excited enough about the Better Auth component. We would just like to do everything we can to mature that as quickly as possible, so that we can start to make that the recommended course for most people. So we're very serious about it.
Yeah. So this is a forward of a request from some from Discord. It was also a question further down that was like, I heard you guys are database guys. What the hell does that mean? So just, I mean, it's weird to like say credentials and stuff, but we like design databases. We designed the storage system at Dropbox. We designed the distributed database at Dropbox. We've run multi-exabyte storage systems and distributed transactional databases that run 4 million plus transactional queries per second, right? So we're very comfortable and experienced running like large scale, highly efficient databases. So the question is, how do we like do this pay as you go plan? Is it like do we have this high fixed cost? And the answer is no, we don't have a high fixed cost per instance. For example, like when Chef happened, like we have hundreds of thousands of new instances. Most of them are doing nothing, right? Because people create a project in Chef and then they forget about it, and it costs us not that much money, right? Because we have a big database underneath, and we have all this kind of sharding and multi-tenancy on top of it. There's an article you can search for called "How Convex Works." Talks a little bit about how Convex is built, and if you want to go into like hella depth on that, we're happy to, because that's the stuff we like talking about. Even though we got to run a business and be like business people, but most of the time we just want to talk about like databases and cool stuff like that. There's a comment here: put more attention into Convex auth. Yeah, agreed. Anything more you want to say about database stuff, Jamie?
Yeah, under the covers, we actually keep user databases all separate, and we do that for a number of reasons, like compliance reasons and security reasons and stuff like that. So someone was asking, like, are all the databases kind of separate, or are they in one, I suppose, database together with an index? And right now, we actually truly use a separate logical database for every deployment, basically. So, yeah.
Okay. This comment, I'm going to own this one because this is my fault. So here's what happened, right? We have the Convex logo and brand, and I feel pretty mixed about it. Like I partly designed it with a really great designer called John Ying, who was awesome. But I don't know, is it like too old school? Is it like it was meant to be like a throwback kind of logo, but some people think it's dated? So I don't know. So I felt like our branding was maybe a bit serious, a bit too serious. And we wanted Chef to be like kind of fun and vibey and like, hey, the Convex is the serious stuff, and Chef is the whimsical, playful stuff. So specifically, we made the logo silly. But maybe it's too silly. I don't know. But
We were
it was
definitely going
intentional, and
for
it's my fault. Yeah, yeah.
we were going for like video game vibes, like a kind of Overcooked-esque. You could probably see that if you look at it. So it might have some similarities to a very large Japanese video game company. We're not going to mention. So, and some of that stuff, we kind of looked at it. We're like, that feels like a fun way to go out the doors. Let's just have some levity. But yeah, admittedly, it doesn't look very business right now. So.
And now there's an argument in the comments about brand. So I don't just want to own it. It's hard. I don't know if it's right. You know what I like the most about Convex logo? It's like all flat. There's no ascenders and descenders. It's just a flat rectangular logo. For some reason, I like that. I don't know. Will custom domains be available to the Pro starter plan? They are available on the Pro plan. They are not available on the starter plan. Oh, actually, I don't. No, they're not available on the starter plan.
That's correct. Yeah. No, they probably won't. Yeah. I mean, I think that there's definitely a number of features that, like, to be not only like one way to shape it is like we want you guys to have an incentive to get a Pro plan. That there's some truth to that. But the other thing realistically is like the more you all are engaging with more sophisticated features, the more we kind of want you on an official support plan as well, because like, the more there are signs you all are doing stuff with stakes, like you're making something with your brand on it that really matters, like the more it's probably appropriate at that point to have an official support relationship with the team. So that will probably stay a Pro plan feature.
And by the way, Chef does not support custom domains for your apps you build, and it's mostly just I don't know, didn't have time. I don't. That's a bit different. We haven't figured out what to do there. It just doesn't exist yet. Omar had a few questions about using Convex to server coordination, using it as an orchestration tool. I've seen people do this before where they're using Convex like to control a cluster of servers. And we don't talk about it much, but we do have like the Python and the Rust client. We have clients in a variety of different languages, so you can use those. There are people out there running like daemons on servers that are subscribed to a control plane on Convex. Works just fine. And you
There's
just
a
use subscriptions to that.
there's an old Stack article I wrote when the first version of the Rust bindings came out that was on. There was this old like Haskell thing about Santa's. I can't remember, but there was this old paper on kind of making actor systems and was about a kind of like simulation with like Santa and elves and reindeer or something. And I recreated that using Convex, which was this kind of a thing. It was like, hey, let's have a bunch of like kind of server agents that are message passing to each other and orchestrating. So if you want to see an example of a project working exactly the way Omar's asking about, if that old Stack article is a good example of doing that in Rust. So, and yeah, it'll work great. There are some teams that are using Convex on the server to drive orchestration processes. And then there might also be a React app attached to that, but then they also have some Go or Rust or TypeScript server-side code as well.
Great. There's another question about TanStack. I think we might have covered this somewhat. We have some TanStack docs. We need to make more TanStack docs. It works pretty well right now. I think we just need to document it better, right, Jamie?
Yeah, it's another thing where like when TanStack start is getting closer to stabilization. Ian on our team and I were talking about this like yesterday. There's a little bit of catch up we need to do to make all the query stuff work. There's a few things that don't work yet. I think in terms of how to think about the raw Convex libraries versus TanStack query, like if you're in the TanStack ecosystem, we do want TanStack query to work as well or better than our own client. But there are folks who are not using TanStack, and the Convex, our own client, kind of predates us doing the TanStack query integration. So I think right now I'd like to say using either is okay, but I think that certainly once you're adopting something like TanStack Start, where there's integration benefits with router and server-side rendering, you'll probably find that using TanStack query is the way to talk to Convex, is just going to give you all kinds of free benefits and is the right way to go.
Yep. Chef questions that wouldn't it be awesome if you could drag an image into Chef and have it build? Yeah, it would be. Haven't done it yet. That's the only excuse. We just haven't had time. But yeah, I mean, I will say like how we think about Chef. The magic of Chef is like the full stack part. So we know Chef is not the best UI tool. Like we know, say like V0 probably builds prettier UIs. At least I assume most of the time. But we also know that Chef just does a way better job of everything else, I think, at building actual full stack apps that store data. And so like, I wish we had a better solution for this where you could like use two tools at once, right? But sometimes people build an app in Chef, get it really structurally awesome, working really great architecturally, and then they export it, and then they use like Cursor or Windsurf or something, and then they go and tweak it and say, "Hey, go make it pretty." Yeah, this is something Jamie wants.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you can. I just haven't done it for you.
I keep talking about Ian. If people that are Convex fans aren't following Ian, you should go look up Ian on our team and then like track everything he does because he does really interesting stuff all the time. So Ian's been working a lot on components, and it's always been a part of the vision to have dashboard support. So if components have an UI that either lets you inspect their state or even control their state by calling mutations, you can have a nice visualization that's component specific. We'd still love to do that. It's going to be a bit of work to do it. But in the meantime, Ian really wanted that for like the agent component. And so what he ended up doing is he just made an independent app that you just give it the URL to your Convex deployment, and it attaches to the component and gives you those visualizations. So we're at least playing with these ideas now. We would love to make that kind of automatic and figure out how to integrate it with the dashboard, but it's probably a little ways away until we figure that all out. It's going to take some work to do. So in the meantime, I would say check out ideas like what Ian is doing with the agent component, because like, so that we're not blocked on the dashboard supporting that stuff. I think we're starting to think about doing that for some other components too. We're like, well, let's just make part of the package to be a standalone. Even we're hosting some of them, right? Because it's just at convex.dev/agent or whatever. And then as long as you just give it the URL and the credential to get to your deployment, then it will give you all the visualizations and control interface and stuff for what a component is doing.
Yeah, Convex Auth, just a quick one. Convex Auth and Svelte not working on it right now because we've been focused on React. But hey, Sean Urquhart did the better auth integration, did an awesome job. I think that could be extended to work great in Svelte. And also, if you'll want to contribute to that project, take it and run with it. There are people building clients for Convex.
Yeah, it's just an honest admission, because again, we're trying to just talk more often to everybody and be really honest. Is like, I hope you all don't take from this that like the Convex team thinks that React is the best thing ever, because like I think that React is an amazing step forward for the industry and has a lot of strengths, especially in terms of ecosystem and powerful libraries like to things like in the TanStack world and stuff. Um, we really like stuff like Svelte 5 and Solid, and there's a lot of beautiful frameworks out there. But given that we're a small team, unfortunately, we have to really focus pretty heavily on the tools used by most people. So because of that, we are definitely investing much more heavily in React right now than we are in other things. I would love to change that when we're a bigger company, but realistically, like it's going to be hard to justify carving off too much time to focus on to like keep the other frameworks up to speed. But one thing we would like to at least do is like help out when people in the community are doing that. And then we've also tried to do a really good job of making all the Convex core libraries really layered so that it's pretty easy to attach to the kind of fundamental state machine on the client to be able to make the bindings to the framework you care about relatively easy to write. So that's the state of play when it comes to non-React frameworks, to be honest.
Questions about jobs. We're not actively hiring just this second, but we'll be again pretty soon. But we are in person in San Francisco, which I know is a big constraint to folks. But you all should reach out to jobs@convex.dev. Yeah, we are. That's the only constraint. We're here in San Francisco. Oh, there's a couple of questions about Convex and Superbase, which surprised me because I don't think that they like go together like whatever goes together, peanut butter and jelly. But apparently you caused some problems, Demi, by confusing people. So why don't you explain yourself?
Yeah, so it was a weekend where I had two goals, and one of the goals was we really do care about self-hosted Convex, and so like we try to find time to spend, even though our natural incentives are to be just make the cloud service better and better and better. And so I had a goal on a weekend to go use self-hosted Convex for a bit and try to solve a bunch of problems with it. And since I was like, well, let me hook up self-hosted Convex to a database, we hear about Supabase all the time, right? Because Supabase has a lot of hype right now, and so, and to be frank, I haven't used the product as much as I should have, since people ask me all the time to compare Convex to Supabase. So I use this as an opportunity to like run Convex on top of Supabase and use Supabase just as a Postgres provider, and so I did eventually get it working, but no, I don't endorse it as a real way to run Convex. So I think if you were going to run Convex self-hosting using something like PlanetScale as your database is a good way to go. Or if you want something really easy to get running, then spinning up the template that we made after that weekend on Railway is like it's pretty smooth and pretty well done. In terms of like the analytical queries, the reason why running on top of Postgres directly won't solve that problem is because the convex data as we store it inside the database, even inside of Postgres, is just this journal of serialized values. It's not ergonomic where you could just write SQL against it, unfortunately. There's a translation step that has to happen to turn Convex's raw journal into nice Postgres tables or DuckDB tables or any other table in order to be able to write the queries you want to write. So that wouldn't solve your problem out of the box, unfortunately.
Well, as Barrel of Lube showed up, I gotta confess, we all have a bit of a giggle when we see your name on Discord, but I hope it's cool with you. um, there are people who use Convex on top of Neon and on top of planet scale. If they want to do that self-hosted thing, I don't think it like makes a ton of sense unless you want to be doing that. Like unless you don't want to be using Convex, right? Or you want to migrate, you want to off ramp from Convex, and that's fine. But most people just use Convex on Convex. And yeah. This is a good question. When will the components authoring? Oh, we just dropped the ball.
It's like shamefully behind, unfortunately. Like components are, if you asked now even more than 6 months ago when we shipped it, like what's the most important part of Convex's future, I would say it's components. And so there's a number of things we have to fix about components that it's like we shipped components, which was a huge effort, and then the team got pulled back onto like we had bigger customers that were scaling up and we had to go work on scaling and we had to work on, and so we really need to double back on components. There's a few things we need to change to like make components as powerful as they should be. And then the other thing we need to do is we need to release the authoring API, because the whole point was we wanted everyone to be able to make components. Now the demand has actually been high enough to make them that we have privately shared some Notion docs with some people in our community and just gone, okay, well, we're not sure if we love this yet, but if you really want to try, here's how to do it.
Yep.
And at this point, I think that like 6 to 8 different teams have actually taken on and built a component anyway, even though it's not officially released. But we don't love this state of affairs. We would like to get around in the next 3 months or so to like just cleaning up what we have and releasing the authoring APIs so other people can make them.
Yeah, you can write a component right now. You can just go copy my presence component. There's probably better components than that, but I wrote the presence one very recently, and I just copied an existing component because I don't write much code these days. So you can go and do it right now. If you all have a situation where the Convex pricing model doesn't fit you for some reason, like you're a giant consultancy firm, reach out. Just email us at info, I guess, at convex.dev. That's close to info at convex.dev, and we'll chat. We'll probably work something out. EU hosting, another very, very common request.
Q3.
And also not that hard for us to do. To be honest, with the way Convex is implemented, it wouldn't take us that much time. It's just that there's so much to do. I'm gonna say like the most awfully capitalist thing, which is if there's a lot of money in it, we'll do it straight away. And it's getting to the point where we probably should do it pretty soon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's one of those things that's been important but not urgent for a long time, and we need to make it urgent. So James and I did talk about this recently. We're going to get it done in the next like 2 or 3 months. We will find a way to do it. So we have a major infrastructure project underway right now that we can't talk about yet, but we'll talk about soon. And after that's done, I think there's a very good argument to be made that EU hosting is the most important thing to do.
Oren has a great question, but also one we could spend like an hour talking about. What's the missing piece of Convex today? Will there be a public roadmap? I keep trying to do a public roadmap, but we keep changing things and stuff. I do periodically post in Discord, obviously, with what we're working on, and I'm happy to be really transparent about what we're working on as well. If I were to pick one thing that's missing, it's analytics. That's the main one, I would say. Do you have one thing, Jamie?
Yeah, OLAP analytics. That's the number one missing feature. Like, there's other stuff that would be nice to have, but in terms of like product features, that's by far the number one thing.
Yep. Questions about different frameworks and different UI libraries, and the answer to all those is like we have no objection to them whatsoever, except that we've just been limited on time. And people, it's an open source project. People can contribute directly as well if you want to speed something up, like especially if you want better view support or something. What other good questions are there? Is a Convex package for Flutter? We don't have that, but we do have Kotlin, and we have iOS and Android support.
One thing maybe with this group to make everybody aware of is like the Convex client-side state machine is pretty complex because the Convex wire protocol has been made to be fairly featureful and robust to a bunch of things that could go wrong. And so because of that, we built the first one in TypeScript, JavaScript. And then we were like, let's only build this once ever again, actually, because we built another one in Python, just realized how much work it was going to be, then realized every language we wanted to bind to in the future, it would be a lot of work. And so part of what we did by building the Rust crate is we wanted to make a second high quality implementation of like the client side state machine. And the hope would be that via C foreign function interface and stuff like that, hopefully most other language environments can just bind to the Rust crate instead of trying to independently reinvent the kind of client in every single environment. So talking about Flutter, if there's a way to be able to bridge the Flutter environment to the Rust crate, and I think that there is because someone threatened to do it a couple of times in the last 2 years. I think someone maybe even did it or a first version of it. Anyway, that's probably the path forward to give this a shot.
Cool. Local first. Oh, the perennial question. See, this is not performative, but if you look at the whiteboard behind, if you squint, this is the design for local first behind me on the whiteboard. We keep working on it. Here's the challenge with local first. It can mean so many things to so many different people, and some of those things are like a little bit impossible. And so what do we mean? So firstly, the Convex is already reactive, and we want to improve pagination. I know that's not like local first, but I think better pagination would make a better experience in the local first kind of way, pagination and caching. And we want to also soon add client-side ID allocation and better optimistic update support, so it's easier to create documents on the client and send them to the server. Um, so that's all going to happen soon. And we are working on an implementation for local first, insofar as you have like a client-side state that you mutate, and you have some kind of server-side resolver that applies those changes to the server, and it has to use some reconciliation policy, right? Like last writer wins or something, right? There's unfortunately, no true magic, and you see this with, for example, Zero, right? The Replicache folks, Aaron and the Replicache folks with Zero, kind of backing off a little bit from some of local first and being like, hey, we're not going to do full offline mode and all this stuff, and we're just going to do sync, because a lot of folks are realizing it gets very messy really fast. And there's some kind of impossibilities in there too. Like you can't do fully consistent offline. You can't like disconnect from the internet, go work for a week on something, reconnect, and then resync your data in a way that's obviously correct. And so we have these designs for stuff like projections, where you can have a table on the server and a projection of that on the client, where like it's a subset of that. And so if the stuff on the client is a subset of state on the server, then you can very easily just apply client-side changes to the server. And we're actively building a prototype. Is just, I know I've been dragging our feet on it. It just like, it's so important to Convex and to me, and I know Jamie, that our API is really good, and our abstractions are really sound. And there should never be any gotchas in Convex. There shouldn't be a situation where you do something and an unexpected weird thing happens. And the problem with local first is it's hard to avoid unexpected weird things happening.
Yeah, I mean, a goal of ours that we believe very strongly in is like we always want to try to simplify your world. Hopefully, that promise feels extremely concrete to everyone using Convex. And local first represents a whole bunch of potential states that make it very difficult to keep things simple. In fact, you can introduce an absolute ton of complexity pretty quickly. And so we want to figure out a way to do it so it's incremental, it can be opted into, and even though it will be somewhat more complex, the connections feel transparent and as simple as possible. And so the part of the question that I know a lot of folks would like automatic deltas, and like now that we have a little bit more freeform for them, the problem with deltas is, and again, we're the team that kind of like designed Dropbox Sync. We actually know a lot about synchronization stuff, is that the delta basis is a complicated idea actually. And Convex connections are stateless. So the Convex server does not attempt to track what state everyone is in, right? And given things like dropped sockets and the unreliability of like TCP/ACK and lots of fun stuff, even confidently tracking from the server side what folks have and what they've written successfully, what got flushed to disk, and did a tab close before IndexedDB save that, and like it gets to be very complicated really quickly. And so, unfortunately, doing simple deltas, it's actually hard to come up with sound design for simple deltas. You sort of have to be willing to think through, even if you don't build it right away, what's the whole theory about how we're going to approach like offline, whatever we want to call local first.
Yeah.
If we don't build it all right away, we at least need to know what design we're heading toward so that we can roll out the first features in a way it's kind of compatible with simple ideas in the future.
And there's a few follow-ups about Delta Sync. Yeah, I hear you. Like just syncing diffs instead of syncing the whole state. We can add that, and we should add that. I mean, I think we can add that in like a not a hacky way, but like if you know what state's on the client, you know what the server, you can just send diffs instead. Like it can be layered on top of the sync protocol in a way that's not conceptually complex, because we don't want to add like conceptual complexity, but diffs are not complex if you have the state. And so we should just do that.
They're not. I think one of the challenges is that sometimes what people mean when they say this is they want to save database bandwidth too. And that's when things can get kind of harder, right? Because
Yeah.
yeah, so if you really just were trying to just set the delta for a performance reason, that might be doable because it's subsetting the like response, the query response. But if part of the goal here, which I think is often the implication of this, is why isn't my database bandwidth lower or whatever, then it starts to get into like introspecting what the query is doing and understanding when it's just opaque JavaScript, the way our runtime works right now, in a way that can be a little trickier to do.
Yeah, the way we should solve that is sub-query caching, and we're
Yeah.
going to work on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why, yeah, there's things like subquery caching that like I think some of what people are asking for, we actually have a different solution we'd like to roll out sooner that keeps things simple and actually addresses the real problem that they would like to see progress on.
Expand team permissions, yes. Yeah, we know we want more permissions. We're going to work on that real soon. We're working with some other partners right now to resell Convex like through their platforms, and we need to like add permissions for that. So yeah, this will happen.
We also have
Um,
some like healthcare companies, which the way they're having to solve this right now is they have two separate teams. The team that gets access to production, and the team where development happens, and that's kind of an ugly workaround. Where if you've got, let's say, private health information or whatever, like you should be able to have fine grained permissions and say not everyone can see prod data, and not have to solve that problem via some convoluted thing with two separate Convex accounts. So yeah,
yeah.
we'll fix that.
So I think we're falling behind. So let's do a power round. Other runtimes, it'd be eventually, yes. Right now, Convex runs like in a V8 environment. So anything that compiles down to WASM can technically run in Convex. There is Go code running in Convex functions. It's messy. It's not like first class. It works, but we'll get there eventually. Better auth, does it work with all the plugins? Probably not, but it's under active development, and agreed, it's messy to use stuff right now. Any plans on improving file management? Oh yeah, we should just do it. We haven't done it. Sorry. Yeah, we should have better like filtering and subpaths and stuff in files.
That could really be a component, to be honest, right? So like if you'd imagine that component authoring API, like we've talked about, there could be a nice file system layer on top of the raw file store that kind of does this for you. So we just haven't had time to build it yet, but there are projects we want to do that would benefit from that too.
Yep.
Oh, I know
I
the
don't.
XState thing. Yeah. So
I don't
I
know.
know
Yeah.
I know David Kay and the XState project, and I've chatted a few times with him. I actually think there's a really cool kind of unification of like Convex's like deterministic reactive workflow stuff and what XState likes to express. I think one or two people have wired it up before, but it was earlier versions of Convex. So there probably could be something kind of cool built there, but like I haven't had time to go back and think it through recently. But if somebody wants to give it a shot, like join our Discord and like share your code and we can talk it through together.
Yep. I think buried in this question about Convex working with external APIs is webhook actions as opposed to like HTTP actions. I think that's the problem here, and that's something we want to add. If not, like I love to hear more about what's going wrong. Um, Showcase of success stories. Yeah, need to add this. We've got some pretty interesting customers running on Convex right now. Haven't got around to porting them online, unfortunately. And yeah, there's some cool MCP stuff happening. Like, is it done already? I don't know. It's so close to done that it's like going to go out in a couple of
I think
days or
it's going to
something.
go out in the next few days, but I don't want to put Tom under pressure. That I don't can't remember what the latest is, but I think he's pretty close to having some cool stuff.
Yeah, if Tom, if you're watching right now, people want your MCP adapter, and yes, he's building it. And what's the biggest app? I recognize his username. I know who this is. I miss you. What's the biggest app built on Convex Cloud? Now, we can't say, but it's not Chef, and it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not when he. Yeah.
I think it's probably, let's put it this way, it's there's apps in the hundreds of thousands of monthly active users, probably daily, maybe daily active users. I'm not sure there's any apps in the millions of daily active users on Convex yet. So that kind of scale, we do. We have customers like that.
Oh my God, this what a question. Can I have a fight with Jamie about Rust versus Go? So there's some history here, right? Because we're like systems people, spend a lot of time writing systems code, and at Dropbox, I mean, Jamie and I would argue about programming languages all the time. Back when we were like peers working together, um, and no, I would advocate that most teams do not use Rust. Actually, I think Rust is kind of like a I don't want to be like a elitist about it, but it's almost like an experts programming language. It's kind of hard to ramp up on. It's kind of hard to use. Personally, I think if I don't also like organizations where there's a tiered system where some parts of the eng team know how to use Rust and some don't, because then you kind of get engineers stuck on certain parts of the stack. So at Convex, almost everything's written in Rust. Everyone has to learn Rust. We have a support network kind of on Slack for understanding what trait objects are and lifetimes and stuff. So Rust works great for us and way better for us because we can do static memory static memory allocation. There's not a runtime to worry about. Rust is just better for building databases. But Go
Yeah.
is more ergonomic, more easier to use. Yeah,
Yep. I mean,
fine.
I agree with that, even though I'm definitely nominally the historical Rust advocate enthusiast. I was the one that introduced Rust at Dropbox and stuff like this 10, 12 years ago, however long it was. But I think that if you were making a database or something like that, where like resource management and performance is like and correctness to some degree is like a key part of what you're making, Rust is great. But if you're not specifically making that, I think there are much more productive languages that like I'm not sure I would pick Go, but like I think things like Kotlin and even TypeScript, like
Yeah,
there's a lot of pretty good languages now.
yeah,
So Go is okay too.
yeah. Like just because Rust. Oh, the other thing that's about Rust is it compiles to a binary, and so you can easily use it in other languages. It doesn't need a runtime like Go. But anyway, yeah, I wouldn't recommend most teams. It's hot on the internet right now to rewrite everything in Rust. I just don't think that needs to be done. I think most times the problem with most systems is not the language, it's the architecture. Um, Most challenging thing building and growing Convex is mostly like, I don't know, explaining things is really hard. Is that a
Yeah,
good
getting
answer?
people to try something new is, and I want to say that in the most respectful way possible. Like everyone's busy, they all got their thing to do. They already have their tools they know how to use, and so I think when you're making something new like Convex, um, you have to find someone at the moment where they're excited to try something new, and then you have to respect their time by doing a really great job of explaining to them why they should care and how to get started being successful with it. And with something as new as Convex, it's a really tough job to figure out the best way to do that. So that's definitely been the most challenging part about introducing a a kind of technology as new as Convex to the market.
And thank you for being a part of the community, Web Dev Cody. We
Yeah,
appreciate
thanks,
you.
Cody. We love you,
Yeah.
Cody.
Am I from? Yeah, Jamie, are you from Australia or New Zealand? What's with your accent?
I am not from either of those places. I am American,
Yeah, so I guess
but you
Jamie's from
might
America.
be from one
Jamie's
of
from
those
America. Yeah,
places.
I'm from Sydney, but I've been here for 23 years, on and off, and I only just got my green card the other recently. It's immigration's been a nightmare in my life, but I live here now. Also subscriptions. Oh, quick, what are the quick wins we've worked on? I mean, this wasn't a quick win, but we have some secret unreleased database optimizations that make our database 3 times faster and half as expensive, probably. So
We one of the things I want to call out is we have some people on the team now that are so good at system stuff. And James has posted a couple of the graphs lately, but like, we'll have an issue come up where something's slower than it should be, and they'll dive in and go find, again, now we're talking about Rust systems programming, some weird lock contention thing deep in the like kernel of Convex. And what's very cool about that is that the leverage is so high fixing something that low in the system that like they'll make this one critical part of the system better, and like everyone's convex projects just speed up by like 40%. And so, and like it's those kinds of things are always really cool, and sometimes you can just discover and ship those things in 2 or 3 days, and it makes a huge impact on all your users at the same time. So I love those small wins when we get them.
Yeah, thank you to Jeffrey and Gotham and the team for just doing incredible work there. Okay, this is actually, I should have said this was my biggest pet peeve with Convex, right? Is that we have row read limits. And the reality is, in any scalable system, in any system, once it grows, you don't want your queries reading a million rows, because they'll just slow down and your app will fail, right? And I don't care whether you're running it on RDS or on Supabase or whatever, you just can't do huge queries in the critical path of live applications. But that said, we should make it easier for you to paginate stuff. I think it's still a little bit annoying to have to like split a big query up into lots of small queries. And so I agree. It's annoying. It's annoying. But so what you got to do is split it up. And there's another primitive I want to add to Convex called like a stale query or something, where we just let you read from a snapshot for as long as you want, and it could go for like minutes, and it just running in the background on a snapshot. Just haven't built it yet. Yeah. Name Convex. Oh my god, naming is so hard. Why? What's your answer to this, Jamie? Why do we call it Convex?
Oh man. Uh it's early in the alphabet, it's flat, and it doesn't have any ascenders or descenders. The word looks good. It could be spelled unambiguously. And there's, like the early team were fans of engineering, as you would guess, and things like rotary engines and like all these kinds of ideas when we looked at the shape of the logo. And so there were some ideas about, the concept of things that are convex that felt like they were additive to smoothly engineered things or something. But
Yeah,
I
you
think
got
at
like
this point, it's become a word that just no longer has a meaning other than
yeah,
it's the company we
yeah.
work
It's
at.
nice to type, and it's kind of feels like conceptual. It's about like mathematical properties. We want a Convex that has a conceptual feel, like good primitives. Uh, Mechanisms for loading data in batches. What's the best way to do this? There's Ian's helper on joins, etc. The article on joins, etc. And we need to add
Um,
more. Yeah,
Yeah, I think with the n+1 problem, I mean, the way that convex queries work is you can do your own descent to fetch dependent records to whatever depth you want, if it's worth it for a query. So, I mean, especially if you take the model that the convex queries run, even though they just look like TypeScript functions, they really are stored procedures that run basically inside the database. And so, as long as you do your dependent fetching inside your convex query, the n+1 thing isn't that big of a deal. Like it will be like compressing things down into a database level fetch. So in general, I would say most people find in practice don't worry about it too much, because convex usually kind of makes that worry go away due to the queries inherently allowing you to express the whole aggregate thing that you need right now in one query instead of breaking things up into many different. Yeah, Mike says there isn't really n+1. It's a little hard to express, but you shouldn't write your JavaScript the way it feels intuitive, and then if you have a performance problem after that, then we can dive into it. But it usually doesn't happen. How's it
it's
working
like
with
look.
Theo on TD chat? So I actually really like Theo, honestly. So we've gotten to know Theo really well, and think Theo's actually a pretty cool person. Theo has high standards, but and because of that, it's fun to be in business with Theo, because Theo holds you accountable. As long as you're a team that feels like we like high standards because we can execute, right? So I think that the one place where we would have been kind of worried about trying to make sure T3 chat went well is if it felt like the things that Theo were important to Theo and the things that Theo was going to want weren't the things that we wanted anyway. But like, actually, I think we realized through kind of getting to know Theo that like the way he thought about where full stack was going was extremely compatible with where we thought full stack was going. And so we're okay being sped up to solve problems. If they're problems we agree we need to solve anyway, that's actually a pretty exciting way to work. So yeah, in general, it's been a real pleasure working with Theo, to be honest.
Yeah. It's nice working with smart people who have strong opinions, right? Because obviously, like strong opinions can go both ways, right? Strong opinions are frustrating if they're coming from someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. But Theo's a well-informed dude, and so it's honestly he's had some critical feedback of Convex that's been true, and it's been helpful. Um, we're basically out of time. What do we? I'm not sure. Do we go over time? I guess we should
I
try to
think
wrap it
we,
up for the keep. Yeah. What do you think,
yeah,
Jamie?
I mean, we can go a few minutes over if there's questions we haven't gotten
Okay.
to.
Why don't we cut the chat now so no more questions, and then we'll try to power through the remaining ones.
Okay.
So thanks everyone. Let's see. Easy migration from Firestore, Firebase. Oh, we need to write a
Yeah.
helper for this.
We need to write that up, especially now with AI tooling. I think there's some things we can do that make that relatively smooth. We've started to have more Firebase migrators, and it's not as difficult as I was worried about. I think it can be done relatively easily. I will say there's a question about moving Supabase over, and to be frank, like Supabase is not Firebase, right? Supabase is usually used in a way which is almost like a more traditional Postgres backend. And in that case, the kind of data flow between the client and server is often quite different. And so I think it could be a little more work actually to move a Supabase project over. Whereas a Firebase project, it's not too much. It's not as big of a lift. So we'll work on good docs and tooling for Firebase switchers pretty soon, and then the Supabase switching thing is coming up more often these days. But like, I think we still need to figure out like how to smooth that road. We haven't figured it out yet.
Cloudflare R2 integration. It exists.
It
That's
exists.
the easy one to answer.
There's a
Just
component. Yeah.
search for Convex R2 or go to our components page. You can use if you obviously we have storage built into Convex. If you don't want to use that, want to use R2 instead, go for it. Resend it. Yeah, we have a resend. Probably presumably Andrew knows we have a resend integration. Jamie built it himself a couple of days ago, and we want to keep adding stuff.
The scheduled email thing. So Convex tries to be very compositional. We believe a lot in composition. And so I thought about the scheduled email thing. The way you do that in Convex, just use the workflow component with the resend component. And using our workflow component, you can say, in 5 minutes, schedule an email. And so that way you're kind of doing all your schedule management in one system in Convex instead of maybe relying on specific scheduling capabilities of every different provider, right? I think it's a little easier to manage workflow things like do this later if you're doing them in one cohesive way. So that's the way I'd recommend taking that on.
Yep. Vision for Auth. I kind of already answered this a little bit earlier. I think our Auth vision's a little bit confused. Just want to own that, right? I think the built-in Auth is great out of the box. I think people do graduate out of it sometimes, and they want to use, say, Clerk because they want more functionality. And so we could have a better answer for you about that. So, but generally people start with Convex Auth, works great. And then sometimes if they have specific demands like SSO or whatever they use, Clerk or WorkOS. How to pitch Convex for building enterprise apps. A lot of people start with adding like a component, like adding reactivity or live chat or something to a bigger application, or reach out, just email us info@convex.dev if you've got a big enterprise app.
Yeah, the internal apps sometimes the easiest way in a bigger application, or a new feature like a chat widget in an app that already exists. So with a big enterprise company, the way in is usually like a toe at a time, right? So something small to get started is the easiest way for a bigger company to try us out.
Same as migrating to Convex. Yeah, I would try migrating some component first to get experience with Convex. But quite a little bit different way of thinking. It's Superbase, most stuff you're running is on the client, and in Convex, it's all the codes in your client repo, but it's running on the server. Bit of a different way of thinking about it. So I'd start with a demo project and start adding to an existing app. Probably best way to go about it. Full Stack Jack, thank you so much for liking our name, and maybe we should send you some merch. Why don't we do that? So I don't know, email Wayne or get hold of you, or you can email us or something.
Wayne has his ways. He'll find you.
Yeah, we're gonna get you a t-shirt. Cool. We're running out of time here, and there's another meeting happening in this room that Jamie is meant to be in. To component, we might be Migrating from Hasura, same thing. A lot of good questions about migrations. I will say, like LLMs do real well on Convex these days, and so moving the code over, you can probably get pretty far, like with Cursor or Windsurf and our rules, and asking to rewrite it, and then the data migration will take some time. Excellent. Oh, Pascal's learning Rust to use our open source repo. Amazing. Um, Please, if you want to build components, yes, we would love, love, love more components. And like I said, we don't have the authoring guide ready, but you can probably figure it out from existing components by copying them. Better auth integration already exists. Just Google it. Just kind of got done right a couple of days ago. Jamie, feature request for resend component.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, for right now, I'm maintaining my. I hear you, but on Convex, Convex can support sending the email later. So rather than add more code to the world by binding that, for right now, I would recommend just use the workflow and or just use the scheduler and say run at whenever you want to send the email, and then call the component then, and it will work.
Cool. I think did I miss a question here? Database bandwidth seems large. If your database bandwidth is large, it's likely you're missing an index, probably. And if you go to the insights panel on the dashboard, it'll tell you like where you should add an index. That might not be the case, and if there's any like specific issue you have with database bandwidth, just hit us up on Discord. I think we're out of time, especially because someone's waiting to come into this room.
Okay, cool.
And so thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, it was fun. It's our first live stream. I think it went pretty well. So we'll do it again. Well, not our first live stream, but our first like Q&A live stream.
Yep.
Great. All right. Thanks, you all. Thanks for being part of the Convex community. We appreciate it.